Catherine Connolly, one of only two remaining candidates for Ireland's presidency, portrays herself as some kind of hippy-dippy old socialist grandmother. Benign, benevolent, virtuous. Wouldn't hurt a fly, believes in free speech, and as she says, wants to raise up voices in Ireland. Well, that's all bunk. In modern Ireland, if you haven't heard of the Burke family, Enoch Burke and his many siblings and his parents, and you're probably living under a rock, because they're everywhere. And they're a constant thorn in the side of the mainstream media, of Ireland's political class, the elites, the people who take on to run and govern us. Well, the Burkes will not bow down to some of the loony, crazy nonsense that we are all expected to buy into and to go along with and to parrot if necessary. Now, you don't have to, and I certainly don't, agree with everything the Burkes say and everything the Burkes do. I certainly don't. But my simple point is, you don't have to agree with someone to respect their point of view and to respect their right to freedom of speech and freedom of expression. And I certainly am in that camp. Now, Ireland is very much a lefty-leaning, left-wing country now. It's a socialist country, essentially. It's bordering on communist, if you ask me. And the left they are your worst nightmare when it comes to simple things like freedom of speech. They portray themselves, as we all know, as being morally superior, virtuous people, people who only want the best for everyone. And that's always nonsense. Any time the left goes more and more left, it always ends in gulags and all of that stuff. People are taken away and never seen again. Re-education, I think they mostly call it. Well, here we have a case last week where Elijah Burke, who is a student of University Galway, National University Galway, and indeed, not only a student, he's a member of the Students' Council in that university, and he's a very erudite, well-spoken young man, and he has been debated on behalf of the university, for the university, has won prestigious prizes. So a very, very intelligent man and a very, very well-spoken man. And he attempted, as I did a video on last week, he attempted at this meet and greet for Catherine Connolly, the lefty darling, the darling of the left, barrister by profession and a politician, and she has been portraying herself to all and sundry with the help of the mainstream media, which again is jam-packed full of left-leaning people to various degrees, as this kind of hippy-dippy, benign old grandmother type who just, is very, very conscientious, very virtuous, and very moral, and she just wants people to, get along, and she wants to raise up, as she says, all voices. Well, last week's video, I think, shone a big light on how the fallacy, that's all nonsense. That's really, that's a veneer, and beneath it, it's business, it's lefty business as usual. Shut up voices you don't like and curtail people's rights whenever you possibly can, for the common good, as they put it. But of course, although I covered that incident, and many other people in this space did too, really the left will cover up for their own. So it went nowhere. It didn't get onto RTE, didn't get onto News Talk or Virgin. The mainstream media, just that was quite embarrassing. And of course, again, it was embarrassing for Catherine Connolly, but it was also, the Burkes were involved, so that they didn't, as far as that goes, the mainstream media feel that the Burkes, you could say whatever you like about them, doesn't matter, because they're just a pain in the ass for the establishment. So that whole embarrassing little situation in University Galway for Catherine Connolly, in which really she was exposed as having no time for free speech or speech she doesn't like or questions she doesn't like. She just sat there like a Cheshire cat, and Elijah Burke, who was asking his question in a very polite manner, in a very well-spoken manner. He wasn't in any way uproarious. He wasn't in any way violent. He wasn't in any way disruptive. He simply tried to ask a question that wasn't on the prescribed list, and that she just sat there, didn't answer it, and sat there like a Cheshire cat as he was escorted out by 4 or 5 guards. 4 or 5 police escorted him out of the auditorium in a university for asking a question. But then Catherine Connolly, of course, she's getting interviewed here, there and everywhere, and she's doing her bit, her act, and she's really running into problems. But of course, the mainstream media is running cover for her. Now, I don't have any time for Heather Humphreys, who is her opponent in the election. I want the election scrapped. I want it stopped. The whole time, I'm spoiling my vote, as you'll know if you watch this channel. But Catherine Connolly will be protected, of course, and any little faux pas like this.
Catherine, can I ask you, in the course of your work as a barrister, did you ever do any work for financial institutions? Specifically, did you ever do any work on property or home repossessions?
In the course of my life as a barrister, I took all types of work. That's the role of a barrister. You take work from where you get it, and you do your best.
Did you do anything for financial institutions?
I'm answering your question. I functioned as a barrister for every side, for people who had committed offences, for banking institutions, for people on the other side of the pitch, people who are going under in terms of orders for possession. Absolutely. That's the work of a barrister, and you take it on professionally, and you do it as professionally. Yes.
So you did do work for financial institutions. Did you work Did you work on behalf of financial institutions in repossession cases?
I'm not going to itemise what I do.
You just said you're in favour of scrutiny and accountability.
Oh, absolutely, and I'm answering your question. I took all sorts of work.
I understand that, but did that include work for financial institutions doing repossessions?
I'm after answering your question.
No, you didn't. You said you did all sorts of work. Does all sorts of work include repossession work?
Absolutely. It included work for financial institutions. It included work for people on the other side of financial institutions. I'm not at liberty to go into all of the details. Obviously, this work, as a barrister, I take it, I committed to keeping confidential. You don't.
Surely some of this work would have been in open court.
Absolutely, and that's all there for anybody to see.
Well, sorry. Did you do repossession work on behalf of financial institutions?
I've answered. I did all sorts of work for banking institutions, for people on the other side. I'm not sure how many times.
Well, you can answer it simply yes or no.
I've answered your question.
I don't think you have.
Well, I'll leave that to the people to decide.
Yes, not a good look for a benign, morally righteous socialist to be prosecuting families and attempting on behalf of financial institutions to have them evicted from their homes. Not a great look, not very benign, not very virtuous, and I would say not very moral. Anyway, well paid, I should imagine. But she did an interview on one of our local stations around the country, and I saw this on the Twitter sphere, and I think it was put together by Elijah himself, a very, very bright, intelligent young man, a man who knows what he's doing, a man who I think will make his mark in the world. And it just highlights the hypocrisy. And I want you to see it, because this woman very likely will be president of Ireland in a few weeks, in 2 or 3 weeks. She may very well, and I think she will, be president unless something radical changes. And we are going to be stuck with this socialist, communist, anti-free speech woman for a period of 7 years. And I dread the thought. But so sure is she that she can say pretty much anything at all on public airwaves, and her buddies, her pals in the mainstream media, all those lefty, communistic, socialistic journalists will just cover up for her. They just won't report any faux pas, anything that's embarrassing, because she's on their team. They want her to win. So you look at this little video that I think deserves more attention and see what you think, because I did show the interaction last week in the university, in the auditorium, and a lot of people were very surprised, very shocked at how Catherine Connolly sat there smirking like a Cheshire cat, as if she was struck dumb in the moment and couldn't answer and wouldn't answer the question, had no intention of answering the question, and watched as Elijah Burke, this polite, well-spoken young man, was escorted from the auditorium as the other students, who are basically in an indoctrination camp, as far as I'm concerned, just cheered like a load of clapping seals. Yes, that's what our left-leaning universities are pumping out into Irish society. Is it any wonder we're in the state we're in? But you make up your own mind and see how you think Catherine Connolly's response to that incident, how truthful was it? Does it stand up to scrutiny? Is she the benign, gentle, old hippy-dippy grandmother who wouldn't hurt a fly and believes in all these virtuous things? Or Is that just a facade and she's just your typical communist when you scratch the surface?
The problem was Mr. Burke stood up, shouted, actually.
Sorry, can I ask a question, Catherine? I'm a student.
I couldn't quite hear his question, to be absolutely straight. I couldn't quite hear it, and kept shouting.
I'm a law student. I'm a law student here at Please.
And it left the students standing there doing their best, trying to cope. Okay. This was a wonderful event where students were engaging.
What do you have to say tonight about Enoch Burke, my brother, who was incarcerated for his beliefs on transgenderism? Do you believe that religious belief should be protected? Just for Catherine, sorry. Yeah.
Nobody was carried out. Then it was said I didn't answer a question. That didn't happen.
Catherine, can I ask a question? Catherine? You were talking on Joe Bromley yesterday about the importance of questions and debate and all that.
So if I was to bombard you now and kept speaking over you and just ignored you, it wouldn't be very helpful to the debate.
Can I speak for a second?
Elijah, what's it like to lose a presidential election?
He can't demand, nobody can demand, answer my question now before any other question, even though I haven't put it in. And if you don't, I will scream, I will shout, and I will shout.
When he was asking his question, he was shouted down by other students in that. To me, that wouldn't denote an environment where free speech is encouraged.
That's not accurate, Alison, you see, I was there. I saw everything. I don't think you can have it both ways. I'm giving you the facts as I sat there. Actually, the student body were very patient. Eliza Burke shouted his question over and over, and I couldn't hear his question. I could hear the shouting. I'd really love to tell the people why I'm standing as president, as opposed to talking about a young man that came in.
There you go. What do you make of that? I did show, as I said, the interaction last week in a video. You can go back and check that if you want to see a more in-depth view of the actual event. But as far as I'm concerned, she just basically made a load of stuff up. She just made it up and made a completely alternative version of what we all saw happening. And she can. And she can. Why? Because nobody's going to call her out on it. RTE won't call her out on it. The journalists won't call her out on it. News Talk, the Irish Times, the Irish Independent, Virgin Media, they won't call her out on it. No, she can get away with that all day, every day. And she knows it. Because the left can never go too far. The left will always protect their own. Regardless of how hypocritical and out of step and out of line they are. And that's why the left is so dangerous. I fear we're in for another 7 years of a socialistic, communistic Irish president. God help us.